I am Lieutenant General Patankar. Like all citizens of India, I am also deeply concerned about the state of affairs in the state of Jammu and Kashmir at present. And today I am going to try and put before you some of my views and ideas. Talking of Kashmir, it's a subject that, as I said, concerns all of us, all Indians. It is something that is so well known that many people have many views on it. And I thought that I'll add a few of my own to that perspective. As you know, Kashmir has been simmering for a long time, to be exact, for about 28 years. Prior to those 28 years, how were things in Kashmir? They were peaceful. There was the political problem, but there was never a agitation or simmering of the kind that we have seen for the last 28 years. One thing I want to say up front, and that is, quite often we look at Kashmir as one monolith of a problem, which is not quite true. And I'd like to see it in two different aspects. One is the Kashmir problem, which has political, international, diplomatic connotations, and the other one is problems of Kashmir. Today I'm going to focus basically on problems of Kashmir, because the first one is so intricate, and there are so many agencies involved in that it is probably inappropriate for me to dwell on that. So, let's talk about Kashmir's problems. The unrest in Kashmir, as I said, started somewhere around 1989, and till now it has seen many ups and downs, many spells of relative peace, and aspects of hope, and only to be denied maybe a few months or years later, which is rather unfortunate, but that's the reality. Having segregated these two problems of Kashmir's problem and the Kashmir problem, let's now see what is the basic issue. What is the basic issue? The basic issue has arisen from poor governance, from lack of confidence in the government, and there is a chasm between the people of the state and the government. That has led to the kind of feeling, beginning with neglect to anger, the various shades. So when you look at Kashmir's problem right now, one needs to understand a little bit of a background. How did it come to this pass? And I'm going to first try and cover some of the background. In 1989, the unrest started because of the dissatisfaction amongst people about many things, but probably the trigger was the elections in 1987, which were under a cloud. Since there was no further effort on the part of the government to try and satisfy people's anger against those elections, it led to normal agitations, the usual strikes and the public meetings and so on and so forth. But by 1989, things started taking a turn for the worse. At that time, the whole effort was spearheaded by Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, JKLF. But soon there were other entrants like Hizbul Mujahideen and many others. I mean, the Tanzeems, as they are called, the terrorist groups called Tanzeems, as you know. Now, the Tanzeems carried on increasing, and as they increased, their area of operation also increased. And as the area of operation increased, so did their activities. And the activities ranged from normal agitations in the street against the government, slogan shouting, then stone pelting after 2010-11 period, which was a new tactic, to actual attacks on anything that represented the government, security forces, government offices, you name it. So there's a very wide range of these activities that carried on. But these activities didn't carry on in a linear fashion, because every now and then there was some lull, either because of some hope amongst the people to say maybe now there are other alternatives available. I'll give you one example. In 2000, for instance, the leader of Hizbul Mujahideen in J&K, a man known as Abdul Majid Dar, he declared unilateral ceasefire. And mind you, Hizbul Mujahideen is the largest group of terrorists in Kashmir. So when he declared unilateral ceasefire, it meant that a sizable part of the agitators or the terrorists, or whatever you want to call them, were now laying down arms, which was a huge opportunity. Anyway, the point is that opportunity was not made use of for various reasons which are not known to me, and in my view it was a wasted opportunity. But the thing that happened thereafter was a slow decline in the recruitment for Hizbul Mujahideen, a sort of a disenchantment amongst the people, and coupled with hope, coupled with the idea that after all, when this has been declared, peace can't be very far away. At that time, the other part, which has been lurking in the background right from 1989 onwards, started playing a major role, and that's the Pakistan factor. Now, the Pakistan factor has been there right through, in fact from 1947 onwards, and it has manifested itself in many ways. First, direct attack on Indian soil, starting with 1947-48 war, then in 1965 by sending infiltrators across the then ceasefire line, and then of course in 1971, and finally the 1999 Kargil war. So that option Pakistan has exercised from time to time, that is direct military action. But coupled with this, there was another far more diabolic and far more dangerous game that was being played by Pakistan, and that is encouragement to terrorism. Terrorism being used as an instrument of state policy by Pakistan. That played itself out and continues to play itself out in Kashmir till today. And this has been proved. I'm not speculating, neither am I saying something which has not been borne out by facts, because this has been stated and proved over a period of time. The point is, how do these two factors come together? These factors come together in a sense when people, like I said, there was disenchantment, there was lack of recruitment to Hizbul Mujahideen. When that happened, Pakistan continued to support those who were still as part of their core group of this agitation, a core group of the terrorist groups, and they were being encouraged to continue by various means. I don't have to spell them out. I think you can imagine what all they constitute. So the Pakistan factor is a very major one. Having talked about the ups and downs, where does that bring us today? It brings us to a point where something has changed. Like I said, the agitators switched from peaceful marches and slogan shouting and a little bit of jostling maybe to stone throwing. And that stone throwing today has been developed into a tactic, almost an art. People are being trained, even stones are being selected. And of course, compensation for various things, including encouragement to stone throwers, is something that keeps getting publicized from time to time. So, the change today from what it was, let's say, in 1989 and thereafter the disenchantment in 2000 and so on and so forth, the change today, I see three major changes. One, the traditional leadership is no longer in control of the situation. Take Hurriyat, for example. Hurriyat does not seem to wield any influence today on the agitators, who constitute mainly young people, the youth, who are mostly students and who have their whole life ahead of them. So they are the ones who are really agitated about their own future, naturally. That's the first part. The second part is that the youth has taken this up in small pockets wherever they are, and that is where the only one which is central and connect with all these groups throughout the area of agitation is Pakistani sponsors. Either those who are underground workers or those who are Pakistani nationalists lying low, but supporting each of these groups in their own way. The third thing is the influence of radicalization, religious radicalization. That's a topic by itself, but that is something that has to be taken cognizance of, because that is a factor, certainly. So today we know that we have reached a point where the situation is volatile but under control. Why do I say it's under control? Now let me put another perspective before you. And that is, when we talk about Kashmir unrest, let's get the perspective right. Kashmir, as you know, has three major regions. Apart from the Kashmir Valley, there is the large geographical area of Ladakh, that is Kargil and Ladakh, and there is the other major area of Jammu going all the way up to Poonch and the line of control. So these are the three major regions. The unrest is localized only to one part of those three regions, and that's the Kashmir Valley. Now even within the valley has 10 districts out of a total of 22 in the state. 10 districts in Jammu region, 10 in the valley, and 2 in Kargil and Ladakh. Now, the 10 districts of the valley are also not totally into this agitation. The agitation is localized to the valley part of the Kashmir Valley, because it's ringed by, as you know, a number of mountain ranges. And as you go closer to in the west and north to the line of control, there is less and less agitation. There is only the problem of the active line of control used by Pakistan for infiltration or for firing across that line of control and causing damage and general intimidation, attempt at intimidation. Similarly, in the other areas, as you go eastwards or southwards, you will find that the agitation is not in evidence. So there is this area of about 5-6 districts, parts of 5-6 districts, where the agitation is. So it is a localized one. It is not as if there is a popular uprising in Jammu and Kashmir, and all regions and everywhere and all peoples are are dissatisfied with the way things are and so on. Of course, like all people anywhere in the world, they want better and better governance. They want more and more activity from the government and more facilities from the government. But it hasn't reached a point of dissatisfaction to a level where they would join this already ongoing agitation. That's the thing that we must not forget. The other thing is, like I mentioned, that it is now come down to the youth and not the traditional leaders. And what effect does that have? That has an effect where now some kind of a direct engagement of the young people who constitute the bulk of the population is indicated. That is where I now come to the next part, and that is, what do we need to bring peace? Many committees and many experts have recommended many ideas and actions to be undertaken by the government. Let me add my own. I call it a new covenant for J&K. Now, why a new covenant? A new covenant simply because, apart from the occasional or the periodic review committees and recommendations that are being generated, that does not seem to have had the desired effect. So why not look at what we have done so far and what hasn't worked and try a different approach? And the new covenant is nothing else but a different approach.